and receive your awards, which we'll get to shortly. So thank you. Just before I'd like to just go through some of the formal requirements as I'm required to do. So we've got one member of public registered to speak by audio visual link or in person. Okay. Okay, so that's not relevant. All right, everyone at this meeting is reminded to conduct themselves in a polite and professional manner, keep communication factual, use appropriate language and tone. Do not use any defamatory or derogatory remarks, as defamation laws apply to addresses in public forum. I also ask councillors to observe the requirements under the Code of Meeting Practice and Meeting Etiquette, including debate on an item will commence only once we have a mover and a seconder for the item. The mover has a right of reply before the motion is put to a vote. Raise your hand if you wish to indicate to speak, and we'll determine the speaking order. On commencement of you speaking on a motion or amendment, please indicate clearly whether you are speaking for or against the motion or amendment. Councillors can speak up to 5 minutes for or against a motion, and similar for any amendment. For the efficient conduct of this meeting, it is not necessary for any matters to be repeated if you agree with or raised by a previous speaker. It is sufficient to say that you agree with the points raised. I remind all present that the video recording is an official record of council and may be made available to persons upon request in accordance with the Government Information Public Access Act 2009. No other recordings are permitted. Therefore, all present should ensure that there are no video recordings or photographs taken. The one exception tonight is parents can take photographs when their child receives an award, so that is fine. And I'd just like to just before we move on, I'd just like to take a moment just to have a look at the men's shed. Have kindly made this, and I thought I thought it would be nice. Order. Yes. So I just wanted to, show everyone that. I thought it was a nice, very, very nice. I don't think I'll have to use it though, so we should be. Not in the manner it was made for. Oh. All right, well, we'll now acknowledge country. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians, the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. We've had, obviously yesterday was Anzac Day, and we've had a number of wonderful events across our community. We had 7 dawn services. We also had some marches, and they say that it was record number crowds coming out, which is really wonderful. So I just want to thank all our sub-branches. Council worked very closely with our 7 sub-branches to ensure that these events ran really well for the community, and all the other organisers. And I want to thank councillors too. Many of you attended to ensure that we had representation across those dawn services, which is fantastic. So on Anzac Day each year, we pause to acknowledge and pay tribute to all those who have fallen, fighting to defend our freedom and our country. We also express our gratitude to those that are currently serving in the Defence Forces. I would now like to ask everyone to stand and observe a minute's silence, please. lest we forget. This takes me to the exciting part of our evening, where we're very privileged to have with us tonight many of our young athletes, our up-and-coming stars, and I can see one of our Sports Citizens of the Year here too, Lachlan. I can see you sitting there. And so this is wonderful. So the Little Athletics New South Wales State Championships 2023 were held recently, and our Bayside area was very well represented by our junior athletes. We had 21 amazing representatives compete in a variety of events and against the state's best of the best. So, and of course, you all did Bayside, and your family's very, very proud. And we wanted to invite you tonight to recognise your efforts, because it's just fantastic, and your commitment, training takes a lot of work, and want to recognise your families who drive you, pick you up, take you to events, because you all play that's an important role and commitment that you do to ensure that your children have the opportunity to participate as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the Deputy Mayor to come out and call you one by one. And then it's always the first person, so it's you, Lachlan, in a moment. So what will happen, just so you know, as you call your name, you'll come up to the front and be provided with a certificate. And then if your family would like to take a photo of you, I will then ask, once you receive your award, to just wait on the side here. And at the end, we'll get a group photo with all the students. Excellent. I'll come to the front.
That's all right, you'll figure it out. Cool, so we'll call Lachlan Chappell up first. So just down this way, buddy. That way. Next we have Emily Hallam. Is Emily here? Talia Hassan. Ruby Donnelly. Matthew Peake. Alexander Billicky. No, not here today. Tali Hube. Tali? No. Joseph McCrecky. Hope I'm saying this right. It's a challenge. Kenta Takahashi. No. Ziad Yehia. No. Aaron Fung. It's good to hear their names anyway, right? They should be recognised. So you all know who these wonderful kids are. Exactly. They might be live streaming. Ethan Costa, Ava Donnelly. Ava. Liv Donaldson. Dion Blouse. Paxton Hoob. No. Harriet Hay. Emily Evans. Sanya Perrick. Perrich. Josh Costa. No. And Noah Preto. No. Okay. Congratulations to everybody for representing our area. Big round of applause.
You're welcome to stay, but don't feel obliged. No one's. All right. I now invite Father Valentin Mendoza Morales from St. Therese Catholic Church, Rosebery. Thank you for joining us. Please be standing, upstanding.
God of all peoples, we begin our Bayside Council meeting, opening our hearts to your divine presence. In communion with Aboriginal people, with all cultures, ethnicities, and spiritual traditions present in the Bayside Council, and in communion with nature, we seek to take part of this meeting in harmony and perspective. We come today as people of privilege, grateful and hopeful for our future. We pray for wisdom and guidance in our discussions and decisions in the matters at hand today. We ask that we may have clarity of mind to see how best to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. In the commitment of service to our Bayside Council community, we pray that we would encourage each other to reach higher and farther to the best we can be. We pray that we acknowledge our differences as we seek our common ground, each one of us working toward the good of all, knowing that we are part of an interconnected web of life. We acknowledge and embrace our oneness. We entrust our meeting to you, God, whose names may differ in our different traditions, but whose spirit keeps us in unity and loyalty to Australia, our nation, and its people. Amen.
Thank you, Father, for being here. All right, takes us to attendance and apologies. So we have one apology from Councillor Souness, and we have Councillor McDougall, who is running a little bit late, but will be arriving shortly. So, and I have a mover and a seconder for the apology. Move Councillor Nagy, seconded Councillor Jansen. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. We have a procedural motion. We have Councillor Douglas wishing to participate in this meeting by audio-visual link. Would someone like to move and second the motion to grant Councillor Douglas's request to attend the meeting by audio-visual link? Moved Councillor Saranowski, seconded Councillor Werner. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. It now takes us, councillors, to disclosures of interest. So we've got some disclosures of interest on there. So I'll start. So mine is just in relation to a less than significance non-pecuniary interest in relation to item 11.4 on the basis that I live in the area but not impacted by these works, and I'll remain in the meeting for consideration and voting on the matter. We'll just, Councillor McDougall's not here at the moment, so, but that was the same declaration he made in the committee meeting. So, so we might, you'll put them up and we might come back through there. All right, next on the screen, Councillor Saranowski.
Their presentation, I was just trying to read it. And then 11.6, I went to a social event with an adjoining owner to the car park, so I won't be in the chamber. But in terms of Riverine Park, I will be in the chamber because it's a less than significant interest. And 11.6, I won't be in the chamber when this item is discussed on it.
Thank you, Councillor Saranowski. Next one is, okay, there's, so we might just, I'll just go round the chamber. I'll go round, that's okay. Yeah.
Chris?
Yep.
Would like to declare a non-significant pecuniary interest on item CWA23,
In which
which is
minutes is he?
11.9, yeah, the Riverine Park.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, on the basis that some of the players, I mean, we have about 6,000 people go through our shops, So it's either the players or the parents or the supporters or the management come in, buy a kebab or a burger at the shop, but that's non-significant conflict of interest. I will be in the chamber to vote. Also on 11.3 regarding the planning proposal in Coward Street, I am on the City Eastern panel, so I would not be in the chamber when that comes up.
Okay,
Thank
thank you, councillor Nargi. Councillor Morrissey? Councillor Muscat? Councillor Vidal? Councillor Jansen? Councillor Werner?
Can I just confirm the minutes of the Planning and Environment Committee, the R3 medium density residential zone? Is that about the changes to dual occupancies and so on? Because if it is, I just wanted to declare a less than significant non-pecuniary interest because those changes don't have an impact on my primary residence. So just wanted to declare that.
No,
Thanks.
that's fine. Thank you, councillor Werner. Councillor Wider, councillor Barlow, councillor Hannah, councillor Cedrak. All right. Thank you, councillors. All right, that now takes us to the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 22nd of March. Can I ask two councillors who were present at the meeting to move and second? Moved councillor Fidel, seconded councillor Nargi. Any comments or changes? No? Okay, move that the minutes be adopted. All those in favour say aye. Against? Declare it carried. Just make a note that welcome councillor McDougall arrived at 7:24, but I'll just get you to take a step back with your declarations of interest, which we just finished, if that's okay. Can we get them on the screen for councillor McDougall, please?
The CS 23.015, CP 23.008, CWA 23.009, declare a less than significant non-pecuniary interest. It says significant there on one of them. Should be less than significant non-pecuniary interest in them as a precaution based on recently starting a role with the Minister for Sport, and I'll leave the meeting for the consideration of those. Similarly, in relation to item 11.6, minutes of the Strategic Land and Property Working Party Group meeting, I declare a less than significant non-pecuniary interest as a precaution on the basis that I'm starting a role with the Minister for Land and Property. I think, sorry, I've got 11, yeah. Can we change the wording, please? Management governance. So
All
that
right.
was not my wording.
Okay, so just so I'll just cross-check. So we've got 11.115, we've got 11.208, okay. Yep, I'll just pull that out. And then we've got 11.6, and then we've got 11.4009, 11.4. It's been pulled out. Excellent. Thank you, councillor McDougall. Yeah. So, thank you, councillor McDougall. All right. That takes us to the mayoral minutes for tonight. So the first mayoral minutes, the first meeting since the cabinet has been appointed, and obviously, again, we congratulate our New South Wales Premier and our ministers, and that I move that council passes on its congratulations to Premier Chris Minns and our elected state members who represent us in Bayside, the Honourable Michael Daly, the Honourable Ron Honig and the Honourable Steve Camper, who are all ministers in the newly elected New South Wales Labor government, and we look forward to continuing to work with our state representatives. So that's congratulations, and we've written to all of them. Any?
I can't let it go. Madam Mayor, I stand to support your Mayoral Minute, and it wasn't a great victory that our Premier, Chris Minns, was elected. He's got the runs on the board, he's quick off the mark, and speaking to the Honourable Stephen Camper, they've taken their positions very, in a very gung-ho approach in terms of the benefit of our area. And the one thing good about it is that I've said this before, we'll see change for the better for the people of Bayside and people for New South Wales. The Premier, Mr Minns, is very keen and he works 17, 18 hours a day for the people of New South Wales, and things that we're going to see quick improvements. And my friend, Councillor McDougall, who now works for the Chief of Staff and Mr Camper, we're going to see things changing. I've already drawn up a list of things that were neglected for our area. The clearways, the beach improvements, sand erosion. These are things that the Honourable Steve Camper is very much switched on. The dangerous situation that's happened in Forest Road. We're finally going to see a Minister for Transport and a Minister for Police who's going to show us the respect that we deserve that was previously neglected for a long, long time. I'm excited. The community in Bayside people that I meet are all ecstatic over the change in government. The one thing I can say that even though they're ministers, they're still the same decent people that we have representing us. It hasn't gone to their head. Well, certainly Mr Camper, even though he's got two drivers, so I had the luxury of being picked up in one of the cars with Councillor McDougall, but he's very much switched on, and that's something that we'll see very quickly. The Minns government, the benefits they're going to have for our area. It's been way too long. The Sutherland Shire Yuppies have been receiving all the funding and all the improvements. It's about time we got what we deserved, and that's, as I said, the first thing Steve said to me the other day was the clearways. He's going to ensure that he stops the yuppies from Sutherland Shire driving through our city 24 hours.
Thank you, Councillor Saranowski. Councillor Hanna.
I can't help myself, Madam Mayor. Look, one thing, it seems to me that with a concentration of ministers covering our area, this really, the stars have aligned. So I don't want to let this opportunity pass for this council to push for structural financial reform. This is our chance, and if we can get that changed, we can put this council in a much better financial position, along with most other councils in New South Wales, because until we can change that developer contribution formula and get that fixed, we're going to continue to suffer this depreciation problem and not being able to fund our maintenance program. So this is our opportunity, and that's why I wanted to speak to it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hanna, and we are the gateway to Sydney Bayside Council. Okay, I put the
Sorry, Miss.
Oh, certainly, Councillor Barlow.
I'd just like to congratulate them all. I actually just wanted in the Mayoral Minute, you've got the Honourable Daly, Honig and Camper, but Chris Minns is he should be listed there in bold. He's not. He's in the précis, but he's not listed as a separate person.
Thank you,
I
Councillor
just feel
Barlow.
it would be better to have that. And I've got to congratulate him because the Premier is in I live in his electorate, and I actually have known him a very long time. So it's going to be interesting because I remember when Sherry Burton was the member. It was totally different, the whole of that area, Cogger and all that. So it's good. They've got a hill to climb though.
Yes.
They keep opening doors and oh dear. But anyway, I do congratulate them all.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. All right, I've put the Mayoral Minute. All those in favour say aye. Against? Declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. Our second mayoral minute is in relation to Domestic Violence Remembrance Day. And this mayoral minute asks that council notes and supports Domestic Violence Remembrance Day, which is next Wednesday on the 3rd of May, and that council endorses the actions taken to highlight the significance of this day to the Bayside community. As councillors, you know, we've had a focus on domestic and family violence and saying no to it in all its forms. And we had a very successful community walk last year, and we've got an action plan which has recently come off exhibition and will be coming back to committee shortly with a range of different actions that will be undertaken. So for Remembrance Day, we'll be using our signage around the airport that we have free access to. We don't pay for it. We will illuminate our Botany in Rockdale Town Hall in the colour of purple, and we will put messaging out in our e-news and social media channels. And on Wednesday, council will also announce that we will be creating, so I'm giving a sneak peek, but that council will create a garden to honour survivors of domestic and family violence and those that the community have sadly lost as well. So the garden will be unveiled on the first day of the 16 days of activism against domestic and family violence. So there was some really good feedback to our action plan, and will inform a number of things that council will be doing. So is there any speakers? All right, I put the mayoral minute. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. All right, councillors, we'll now, prior to the public forum, I will now proceed to deal with the remainder of business on the paper by exception. So what I'll do is I'll call out the items that have been pulled out, and if you would like to pull any others out, we'll then go round afterwards. So at the moment I have 11.1015, which is the confidential sport field allocations. I have 11.2008, which is the tender in relation to Bexley and Scarborough Park courts. In 11.3, I have number 10, which is planning proposal for 200 Coward Street, Mascot. In item 11, I have the draft planning proposal R3 medium density residential. In 11.4, I have number 9, which is Riverine Park. And then I have number 10, which is the Wentworth Avenue Page Street intersection upgrade. In 11.5, I have item 43, which is the Hale Street and Botany Road, Botany. In 11.6, I have the minutes of the Strategic Land and Property Working Group. I'll go around if there's any other items any councillor would like to pull out. Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fidel, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Werner. Councillor Awada, Councillor Barlow.
CS 23012.
Which minutes?
Sorry?
Which minutes?
CS, whatever that is.
11.1?
No, 11.1, yeah.
Which-
23.12.
2, which is the alcohol-free zones,
Yeah, 23.014.
the voice to Parliament,
23.015.
that's out already.
Okay, and 23.016.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Hannah?
Nothing.
Councillor McDougall? Councillor Sedrak? Excellent. I'll just, all right. Yep, my formal part. All right, all other items will be dealt with by one resolution. May I have a mover and a seconder for the following motion, that the recommendations included in the business paper be the following items as read out be adopted. Moved, Councillor Muscat, seconded Councillor Jansen. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. It now takes us to the public forum. And we have one speaker now on the only on the public forum. So this is in relation to item 11.3, minutes of the City Planning and Environment Committee meeting in relation to the planning proposal for 200 Coward Street, Mascot. So we note that Councillor Naji and McDougall have left the chamber. We have a Mr. Matthew Lenartz, the applicant, who is speaking against the committee recommendation. Mr. Lenartz, if you'd like to make your way to the front.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors. Thank you for your time this evening. I'm not sure, based on the past resolution, if this statement will make any difference, but in any event, my name is Matthew Lenartz. I represent the Meriton Group and I'm speaking in regard to item 11.3 on the agenda, which is a planning proposal to remove the active street frontage provisions that apply to a site known as 200 Coward Street, Mascot. Meriton maintains 100% ownership of the site, which is occupied by 237 residential built-to-rent apartments, 179 service apartments, a childcare centre and a range of retail and commercial tenancies. Despite this concentration of development within the site has been unable to attract and retain suitable retail and commercial tenants over the last 5 years since the project was completed in April 2018. Meriton has undertaken multiple advertising campaigns, expanded the retail GFA and significantly reduced rents to try and make the retail spaces work. However, it is simply the wrong location because the site is dislocated from the Mascot Town Centre and Botany Town Centre where most retail activity occurs, has poor pedestrian accessibility and desirability as it sits on the wrong side of the junction of major roads, has poor visual connectivity due to the raised floor levels above the street level, which is not conducive to retail or commercial premises, has poor on-street parking availability for convenient access, and does not benefit from being excluded from these provisions like the adjoining sites to create a consistent and cohesive outcome, which has resulted in a higher vacancy and turnover rates, negatively affecting many businesses, and nearly all existing tenants are seeking early release from current releases. This position is supported in the council report presented to the City Planning and Environment Committee on the 12th of April 2023, with support from independent retail assessments. The report also concludes that the PP has sufficient strategic and site-specific planning merit to proceed through the gateway process. We maintain our support for this recommendation. However, before you this evening is a recommendation from the committee to defer the matter, which we do not support. The committee has recommended that the deferral will allow time to discuss BPA options on the basis of increased value being generated by the PP. The proponent has already engaged with council staff and addressed this matter in separate correspondence, which we understand has been issued to all councillors for consideration. The confidential advice given to provide some commercially sensitive information demonstrates that there is no increase in value generated by the PP, which is the nexus for consideration of a VPA. And as most of you would know, we have applied this to other projects in Bayside, generating significant community and public benefits. The current PP simply seeks to provide a more effective use of the existing building by allowing the poor performing retail shops to be converted to residential and serviced apartments. Numerous businesses have tried to make this location work, however it's continued to fail and many families have lost their businesses through the process. To the contrary, a residential use will provide desperately needed housing that will be available for rent, and we would like to convert the use of this as soon as possible. Importantly, there is no direct planning gain as there is no change in zoning, no additional GFA, and no additional height being permitted. Accordingly, as there is no value generated, there is no need to defer consideration of the matter to discuss a VPA, which is not required under Council's own draft guidelines. Accordingly, we hope that Council can revert to the original recommendation of staff presented in the committee report and resolve that the PP can be supported and forwarded to the Department of Planning for gateway approval. Again, I don't know if that can be changed now given the previous recommendation of the Council, which is unfortunate if that is the case. But in any event, I thank you for your time and I'm happy to accept any questions.
Thank you. So just for councillors' benefits, the committee recommendation was that this item be deferred to allow council to contact the proponent to discuss VPA options and provide a further report and recommendations to the May committee meeting. So that was the recommendation. Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Jansen. Is there any further discussion? All right, I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare that carried. Okay, councillors, that takes us to 10.2. So this is the Climate Summit for Local Government, which is being held in Melbourne. Oh, excuse me, can we invite the councillors back in? Thank you. No. Yeah. Just check for your food. Fausto said they do. Okay, this takes us to item 10.2, the Climate Summit for Local Government. This is an opportunity if any councillors would like to nominate to attend this summit. Do I have any nominations? Councillor Werner, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji. No others?
Could I nominate, please?
Councillor Douglas?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Not very well, Councillor Douglas, but enough to know you want to go.
Yes. Sorry, I did do a text check. I thought you could hear.
All right, so we have 4 councillors. So someone like to move that way? Move Councillor Hannah, seconded Councillor Wada. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare that carried. All right, it takes us to minutes of the committee. So we're starting with the minutes of the City Services Committee held on the 5th of April. The first item that has been pulled out is item 12, which is a review of alcohol-free zones. Councillor Barlow?
Just looking at the map, I don't know if I'd like consideration to go down. There's a park at the bottom of Victoria Way, and they've just gone a little way around, and I feel that needs to be included. I was very surprised when we got the comments, the complaint about them being in this Victoria Way. So I just thought if they could expand the area to include, I think it's Robinson Street Park, in it, because that's where they'll go.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure they'll head that way.
So can we just add to investigate expanding
Expanding it into
the alcohol-free zone
down to the park.
down
You
to
know,
the
when you
park?
go down, there's a little park in Robinson Street. Yeah, and Robinson Street. So
But change the bound.
Well, they're not allowed to drink in the park anyway, but that doesn't matter. They'll maybe hang on the fence there under all those horrible, what you know.
Okay, we can add that we look at extending it beyond the park.
Yeah.
Excellent. Do I have a mover? Move Councillor Barlow, seconded Councillor Fidel. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried.
Oh, sticky. Yeah, no, well, I meant I was online and I couldn't get to the computer. So I keep hitting the button and it doesn't work.
Apologies, councillors. All right, so this takes us to 11.1, item 14, voice to Parliament. Councillor Barlow?
I've got a motion that I gave to the officers. I don't know where it is at the moment, but the report be received and noted that council follow the lead of the federal government, who have agreed to launch a neutral civic education campaign as quoted by the Minister of Indigenous Affairs, the Honourable Linda Burney, in the Sydney Morning Herald, and that council actively campaigns using their media outlets on the yes and the no vote. So that's my motion.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Hannah. Anyone speak to it?
I'll move a foreshadowed motion that the motion as originally be put with the committee's recommendation be put, sorry.
Thank you. We have a foreshadowed motion that's going back to the original, seconded by Councillor Morrissey. So we will deal with the first motion. Are there any other speakers to the first motion by Councillor Barlow?
In the Sydney Morning Herald. Yeah. And well, I've been that the federal government is going to put out a yes and a no, explain the referendum, explain everything, and they are not committed to either a yes or a no. They're being equally very, very fair, and this is where the council, all the councils that are doing just a yes vote, you're virtually dictating to your residents, where we should be advising them on either thing. It's up to the resident to make the decision. You can go door knocking and say, well, this is what I think we should do. But as a council, we should be actually being on a level playing field, explaining both, which the federal government is going to do. And that's why I've moved this again. The $20,000 in the report it should not be there. We've got financial difficulties, restraints, and it's in there, but yes, that is in the report. But if you don't get the $20,000, you'll take it out of, we've got it in the budget, we've allowed for it.
For the flags and
that's what I'm saying is that
banners.
a ratepayer today, apart from the trees that were hacked in Princess Highway, that was her other issue. And she was quite upset, and a few other have been, that we're using ratepayer money for a federal issue, which when Councillor Werner put up one about, gambling, I disagreed with that because it was a state issue. This is a federal issue. They are going to do it all. We should not be interfering. If you choose individually to go around and say something, I think that's the way to go. We've got that $20,000 could be beneficial somewhere else, and I believe that as a federal issue, why are we being involved? We didn't do it with gambling, so that was why I moved that motion. And anyway, I will.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Are there any other speakers to Councillor Barlow's motion?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I respect Councillor Barlow's opinion on this, but I will note that the motion does say that these actions are subject to the successful NAIDOC Week grant application, which I understand would cover the costs of these. They wouldn't come from ratepayer funds. And ultimately, this is in line with our strategic planning framework. It's in line with our reconciliation action plan that we do support things like this. The federal government, our Albanese government does support a voice to Parliament. They're very clear on that. They're advocating for a yes vote, as are many other political institutions. At the end of the day, I think this is quite different, and genuinely to many of these issues where they are simple advocacy issues to the state or the federal government. This is about all of us coming together. Whether to vote for or against. This is a big moment in the nation's history, and I think it is entirely appropriate that council takes a clear stance on this. These are fairly, these are not cost prohibitive proposals. They are well covered by a fairly small grant for NAIDOC Week, and perfectly in line with our past actions in support of reconciliation.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. Councillor Fardell? I just invite you to stand, please.
I don't believe that the Neutral Civics Education campaign is actually relevant to what we're doing here at Council or what we're talking about doing. I found what she said. So there is money set aside for a Neutral Civics Education campaign. We hope that will begin sometime in May. And that is about making sure that the Australian community right across Australia understands that we have a constitution, how you change the constitution, what a referendum is, and of course the importance of this referendum. But I stress it will be a Neutral Civics Education campaign and it will be rolled out across Australia. Well, that's fantastic. That's really good. But why would we need to do a Neutral Civics Education campaign when the federal government's going to do that? So people, because a lot of people don't understand the Constitution, they don't understand what a referendum is. So this is going to explain that to them. What Council's suggesting is we're putting forward the yes vote for the voice, which is a totally different thing. I just don't see that that is relevant to what Council is doing.
Thank you, Councillor Fardell. Councillor Werner?
Yeah, so I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding because I don't think council is dictating anything to our residents. We're not saying that, they have to vote one way or the other. It's simply that council as a group have decided to advocate one way, and residents can still obviously make up their own mind as thankfully we live in a democracy. So. And I guess this is also a good opportunity to say that there is a progressive no vote as well from people who believe that we should be doing treaty before we do the voice. But, again, that's up to individual residents to find out about it. And but I think we do need to recognise that, council is not dictating anything because we do live in a democracy. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. Are there any other speakers? We'll put the motion. So it's right of reply.
And I thought I'd just bring this. Seeing I got told I'm in the 40s and 50s. That's why I was up on the wardrobe trying to find the dress. I didn't get that dress. It's
Is
beautiful.
that you, Councillor Barlow?
Yes. And this is the booklet that it was in, white inside, 1956. The Grace Brothers Ballroom for the debutante ball for the Ex-Naval Association. Now, I found that offensive that I was in the 40s and 50s. I wasn't born, I was born in the 50s. I'll discount the 40s. But, so I thought I'd bring them along just so that I am in the 40s and 50s. So the reason I've done this, because I believe in that it does say here that we have an opportunity If you can guarantee you're not going to spend $20,000, that's fine, but the opportunity is here. There's a small budget bid for $20,000.
Grant bid.
Sorry?
It's a grant bid.
A grant bid. So if we don't get it, we can't do it. Because I can't support, I don't believe that we, as a council, should be saying one way or the other. But that's my personal opinion. I'm an independent. I just don't believe anyone should be saying that. They should be going out, explaining it to everyone like they are the federal government. Let the federal government do the work for us. Why are we involved? Why is everyone else going to be involved? But anyway, it won't get up, I know that, but on principle I had to move it, and there is no way I feel if there's no money being spent by the ratepayers' money, that's fine. So if you don't get the budget bid, it says here that if you don't get it, there is a small amount of money. So have we got money set aside or not? That's a question for someone.
Through the chair, the period of time that we're talking about is in the next round of budgeting. We do anticipate that we will get funding. We do every year. It's almost not competitive. Every council gets a small amount of funding for NAIDOC Week, and we're proposing that this year we use that funding for the purposes that we've been discussing around the Voice to Parliament. There is also a smaller amount of discretionary budget that we have when we have events or activities that come up that we haven't planned for. So it will be a very modest amount of money if any council funds are used at all, because we haven't ever not had NAIDOC funding when funding is offered by the federal government.
Thank you.
Can we have the mic on, please?
Oh, your mic. Sorry, Councillor Barlow.
The federal government is the one that's got to do all the work, not us. We didn't allow it for the state government, so as far as that's why I've put it up again, and I thought I'd find a 50s photo. It's a shame I didn't have the dress.
No, thank you for sharing the photo.
To the federal government, I believe.
Through the chair, that's correct for the NAIDOC Week funding.
All right, so we have Councillor Barlow's motion, and then we also have a foreshadowed motion. So we will deal with the original motion there. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare that lost. Division. So this is the one that Councillor Barlow's put up. So I'll just wait for the table. All right. So Councillor Morrissey, for or against? Councillor Mascot? Councillor Fidel? Councillor Jansen? Councillor Naji? Against? Or? Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Naji. Councillor Saranowski? Against? Councillor Werner?
Abstain.
Councillor Wada? Councillor Barlow? Councillor Hannah? Councillor Douglas?
Against.
Councillor McDougall? Councillor Cedrak? And I'm against. Therefore, I declare the motion lost. We will now put up the foreshadowed motion, and the foreshadowed motion goes back to the original committee recommendation. The original committee recommendation, for the benefit of everyone, is that Council notes the reports and its actions, that the events outlined in the report are highlighted in e-news and articulated on Council's, am I reading the wrong one? Oh, that Council notes the report and its proposed actions. Thank you. All right, so we've got the foreshadowed. I've put the foreshadowed motion's been moved by councillor. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the foreshadowed say aye.
Aye.
Against? I declare it carried. Division. Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Muscat. Councillor Fardell. Councillor Jansen. Councillor Nardby. Councillor Serenosky. Councillor Werner. Councillor Wada. Councillor Barlow. Councillor Hannah. Councillor Douglas.
For.
Councillor McDougall. Councillor Cedric. And I'm for. Therefore, I declare it carried. Thank you. All right, so the next item in front of us is, thank you. The next item is 015, the confidential sport field allocation. So Councillor McDougall leaving the chamber. So just so councillors know, the committee recommendation was that the report be deferred to the next meeting of the City Services Committee. So it's just been pulled out because Councillor McDougall has to declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary. So therefore, do I have a mover and a seconder?
Mayor, can I also declare a significant non-pecuniary interest as I play for one of the teams, so I better step out of.
Okay, Councillor Cedric, thank you.
If anyone's got a hard copy, I'll just have a quick look. If not, okay, if that's the case, then I'll stay. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor.
All right, yeah, okay. Right. Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to check. I couldn't get it up on the.
Thank you, Councillor Saranowski. All right, so do we have a mover? Move Councillor Jansen. Seconded, Councillor
I just
Awada.
want to move an amendment that because of the wording that it goes to the next meeting of the City Service Committee, and I was online waiting for that because it's confidential, so I was going to move that it goes to the next informational workshop because it is going to be a closed session, so no one can criticise it, and it would be beneficial if most of the councillors did come to it, and because so that's why I was moving it.
I think Councillor Barlow, because it's been published on the papers previously and there was a recommendation from council for the purpose of, even though it's confidential, but for the purposes of transparency, it has to publicly be revisited by another committee.
Well, it's just wasting time, but anyway, okay.
All right, so we have the original motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, I declare that carried. Can someone, we might leave Councillor McDougall out there because he's staying out there for the next one as well. So the next one is 11.2 minutes of the Corporate Performance Committee meeting on the 5th of April. So that's number 8, the tender for Bexley and Scarborough Park Courts Management. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Fardell. Any speakers? Councillor Werner?
Yeah, I just want to note that I can't support this motion because at Scarborough Park, that tennis court upgrade is right next to an endangered ecological community, and so I believe that that should not have gone ahead the way that it has. So I'd just like my disagreement with that noted, please. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor Werner. All right, we have a mover and a seconder. Any other speakers? All right, all those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. And my apologies, I left out number 16 in 11.1, which is the confidential joint waste and resource recovery. So I think we invite Councillor McDougall back. And Councillor Cedric. Thank you. So this is item 11.1, number 16, which is a joint waste and resource recovery collection services. So Councillor Barlow.
Madam Mayor, I only pulled it out because I felt that we have to acknowledge the work and the presentation of the staff. It was brilliant. And I just believe that when it comes to any other session, please put it to the whole council to come, because it's one of the most important decisions you will make. I was there when we did the last garbage thing. I think it was at St George Lee's Club with Purcell and Cogra, as the three of us have combined. So it was a brilliant presentation, and everyone really needs to understand it. So I feel that each time, whenever the next one is, it becomes not just a committee, it comes as a workshop, so that we all understand it, because it's fascinating, all the upgrade and everything that's come about. So I just wanted to pull it out, congratulate everyone, and hopefully everyone will be able to come to the next one.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Noted. Please pass on vote of thanks to the team involved. All right, so all those in favour say aye. Against, declare that carried. That now takes us to 11.3, and we've got number 10, which is we've got two planning matters. So I'll ask Councillor Nargi and Councillor McDougall. Oh, we did that one. Sorry. Wrong one. No, the next one. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I mean number 11, not number 10. So this is the draft planning proposal, which is the R3 medium density residential, it's being pulled out because it is a planning matter and it has to be voted on. So for the purposes of the planning here, so just for the recommendation, it's on the screen. Might just scroll up a little bit, thank you. So basically that was in relation to medium density residential use and submitting it to the Department of Planning and Environment for a gateway determination. And the rest is there for you to read. All right, do I have a mover? Move Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Jansen. Any speakers? No. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare that carried. Sorry? Division, because planning matter. Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fardell, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Werner, Councillor Wada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah, Councillor Douglas, Councillor Cedric, and I'm for. I declare that carried. So Councillor Nargi comes in, Councillor McDougall remains out there, please. All right, we're dealing with no. Okay. Councillors, I'm sorry, Councillor Naji, I'm going to have to recommit something that's planning related, so I'm going to have to ask you. Sorry. My apologies. Councillors, I just need to recommit 11.3 number 10, which is the planning proposal for 200 Coward Street. Although we had the speaker and we moved that way, I didn't call a division, and I need to because it's a planning matter. So we'll ask that the division come up. That's for item number 10, planning proposal. Okay, and that was to revert back to stay with the committee recommendation. Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fidel, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Werner, Councillor Wada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah, Councillor Douglas,
For.
Councillor Cedrat, and I'm for. Thank you. I declare that carried. Now we'll invite Councillor Naji back, but leave Councillor McDougall, please. Thank you, Councillor Naji. 11.4, number 9, this is Riverine Park, which is an update on sporting partners. So
I'll
moved
second it.
Councillor Naji, seconded Councillor Saranowski. Are there any speakers? All right, we have the committee recommendation. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Sorry, Mayor, could I
yes.
ask a question through the chair?
Sorry,
Can you hear me?
Councillor Douglas, did you want to speak to it?
I wanted to ask a question, actually.
Okay.
I just had some interest from community members who were asking about the expression of interest process and why only sporting groups were invited to that process. They were wondering how the council assesses the needs of our green spaces and the needs of our community, as they suggested this space may be better used for a public recreational space like the Sydney Park that also benefited around the wetlands that were there. So it seems as though we have the Barn Park development being done for sports.
So this was raised at committee, and the question is around because it's a sporting precinct, and the EOIs were in relation to creating a sporting precinct in that area. So Councillor Douglas is asking why it's focused on sporting areas, and I'll ask the General Manager to respond, please.
Thank you through the chair. I think at the committee meeting there was a question about the allocation to either active or passive recreation, and how much of it was not, how much of the park was not used for that purpose. In terms of Riverine Park, we've done some measurements. Passive recreation is 13.9%, active recreation is just over 38%, and almost half, at 47.9%, is not used for either of those purposes. So it has environmental benefits, and it is not used for either passive or active sporting pursuits.
Thank you, General Manager. That's good to know, those percentages. Thank you. All right. Are there any other speakers?
Madam Chair, that doesn't answer my question. I wondered, the community representatives were asking me why they weren't, the EOI for the Riverine Park wasn't also put out to community groups, why it was only put out to sporting groups.
Oh, I see. Okay, Councillor Douglas, I'll ask the General Manager. We're having trouble hearing you, so we're guessing where you're headed.
So yes, apologies. It is very hard to hear what the question is. I think what you're asking is about the process. And of course, Council did go to an open tender for use of Riverine Park some 2 years ago, I think it is now, 2 seasons ago. At that time, council assessed the applications, considered those on their merit, and this in part enacts the decision of the council at that time for 2 of the fields to be allocated to Arncliffe Aurora. So this is simply the next stage in a much longer process for 2 of the fields to be allocated in accordance with the decisions that were made on the basis of the public tender.
Thank you, General Manager. Does that answer your question, Councillor Douglas?
Sorry, I missed a little bit at the beginning. I guess the question is it zoned as a sporting area? Why wasn't it put out to community groups for tender that were non-sporting?
It's zoned, it's appropriately zoned to have those activities there, Councillor Douglas.
So
And it was previously sporting fields.
So the question is why were non-sporting groups not allowed to apply in the EOI process?
I'm sorry, we can't understand you.
Just let me turn these Bluetooth headphones off. Hold on a second. Can you hear me now? Is that clearer?
That's better.
The question is why were non-sporting community groups not invited to apply for the EOI?
So, Councillor Douglas, that goes back to a decision of a former council. At the time, what was being considered was how we could reactivate the previous sporting activities that happened historically on that site. So it was really about seeing how we could bring those sporting fields back to life, the building down there that had languished, the fields that had languished, and really how we could get better use out of them than we had for a number of years.
Thank you, General Manager. All right, Councillor Werner.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm aware that it was a previous term of council that decided how to use that park, but I can't support this motion because I believe that that park could be activated in so many other ways. And we've now learnt that some of the sports groups that were originally invited to make that expression of interest are no longer interested. So I would say this is a fantastic opportunity to think about other uses of that area. I think there's a huge appetite for all sorts of different uses. It could be you know, it could be a dog park like Sydney Park, or there could be, you know, it could be used by other cultural groups for other cultural uses. So for that reason, I can't support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. Councillor Saranovsky.
Madam Mayor, thank you for having the opportunity to talk on this item. And I rise with great delight to second this motion. Okay, I don't talk to 3 or 4 people. I talk to thousands of people during my term on council. Now, I'm going to talk to you tonight, not as a councillor. I talk to you as a local resident that's lived in that area for the last 50 years. Councillors, people that watch this on Facebook, on it, that used to be a tip, T-I-P. How do I know? I, as a kid, used to go around with push bikes and that. We go around the tip. That's 50 years ago. It is not a park of some sort. It was a tip. But Rockdale Council used those fields to fill them up. St George Stadium was a tip. One of the reasons why the building at Riverine Park has subsided is because of the fact that it's a tip. It's contaminated land. It is contaminated land on it. I go there at least once a month for a walk. That area there is blocked off. Nobody from the public can use this field. What we're going to do, what's been suggested, it went out to the market prior to the last council election, and anyone that was concerned about it could have expressed their point of view and not voted for me or any of the previous councillors. But what we're here today Madam Mayor, is to work out for the majority of the people. The majority of the people. I'm sick and tired of hearing about massive shortage of playing fields. We don't have enough playing fields for the majority of the people. The majority. Gather on a Sunday and you'll see people walk along with their dogs and they go right around the water up to the old fishing spot. They can't do it now because of the St George, because of the Barton Park works. I've not heard one negative resident come to me and say to me about that development. Because when they look at the pictures, and a good thing on the council, there's photos, they think this is long overdue. Because this is for the community, for the benefit of the young kids. Now, if one wanted to look at the plans that were submitted by Uncle Flora, they would have seen it's not just football, it's a half-size basketball court that Councillor Cedric will be ecstatic over it. They're going to be providing other facilities other than football. And it's going to be a multi-purpose. It's going to be volleyball. There's a sport called cricket. There's going to be cricket facilities there. I've spoken to New South Wales Cricket. They're ecstatic over it. The only part that hasn't occurred is the rugby league team has pulled out because that was going to be an academy for the up-and-coming players, the young kids from that area. But it's not solely for football. Now, if you look at the majority of the people, not the 3 or 4 people. Uncle Flora is one of the club that's got the highest number of kids, teams. Guess how many fields they have? One. They have one. In the St George Soccer Association, they're probably one of the most, the biggest club. They've got one field. And what's been proposed, if you bother to read the document, is to provide a facility for our kids to play their favourite sport. But in addition to that, it's not just, as I said before, Madam Mayor, it's not just a matter of football. Go down there and have a look at it for yourself. It is a dump there. And as the General Manager has said, 13.9% of the land will be passive on there. It has always been a soccer precinct there. Uncle Scott's Club used to be there. Uncle Scott's Club. There was the golf driving range. There was a baseball thing there. That is where you want a sporting facility, away from the residents. That's what you want. You want the parking to be away from the residents. Look at Gardeners Park. There'll be all the complaints we get about the parking. This council should unanimously be supporting this to say this is great, because when Rockdale City Sons had that facility, they got relocated from Riverine Park to West Botany Street. They had parking there for about 500, 600 cars. You know how great that would be for Uncle Flora when they have their games, their main game, to be at Riverine Park. We solve the parking problems of Arncliffe and the Coptic Church, because their main fields will be at Riverine Park. Very simple, Madam Mayor, very simple. That's why the next step is to negotiate with them for their 21-year lease. And if you read the other recommendation, is to look at, in terms of the outer fields, we don't have enough playing fields. And the biggest problem is we do not have the financial capacity at the moment to spend any money in that area. Is that true? We don't have the money. Now, Uncle Flora, we've put them through a lot of rigmarole. They've got funding from the government to build this facility for, not for 3 people or 4 people, I mean, for the majority of the community. Every time I go to Arncliffe Park, I'm amazed the amount of kids that are from different nationalities that go and play that sport. And to see those kids playing, but they all come up to me and go, Mr. Saranowski, we've only got one field, but we're the biggest club. Now, Uncle Flora Committee are going to allocate time and money. They've got the sponsors to lift an area that used to be a TIP, T-I-P, that Rockdale Council created. God only knows what the amount would be on, but we have to clean it up, the contamination. And I could tell you the figures, but I wouldn't want to raise them in public forum because you'll all freak out. So this is the first step of a long process, and I'm sure once this complex is completed, every single one of us will be proud of it, exactly like what's going to happen at Barton Park. Exactly, because the world doesn't just live around Bayside. Go out and see the other sporting facilities out at Blacktown, Park Lee. Everything that we're building at Barton Park is at Park Lee. It is an unbelievable facility there for the majority of the kids. We have, later on this year, the Women's World Cup. That's great. I hope some of their kids can play in there. But that will be the stepping stone for future World Cup teams from these clubs. We had today at the presentation of Little Athletic Kids. I'd love one day in the 2030, I think the Olympics is, to be told, when I'm in an aged care facility, Mr. Saranowski, when you were on Bayside Council, was a little kid received an award. Guess what? He's now running for Australia. Wouldn't that be great? Because that is our community, and this is a community investment by Ankapura with the support of the state government and Bayside Council.
Thank you, Councillor Savner. Right of reply, Councillor Naji.
Thank you. Look, I concur with Councillor Saranowski, so I'm not going to repeat the same issues that Councillor Saranowski spoke, but I'm just going to concentrate on a few things. I, as a councillor, elected by the community, like every other councillor around this table, we have a responsibility in civic office to make the best decision for the community. The best decisions for the community. That's what we are elected for. Now, I just want to take the new councillor just a step back. In the previous council, this has been in the making for probably 5 years. And I got to congratulate the staff. They have spent many, many hours, many, many days. I'm not going to count the 1,000 hours possibly or probably, but they have spent so much time. Then the council decided, okay, when we had a workshop about all our parks, what we're going to do, and I was one of the first councillors and supported by all my fellow councillors that we need to do something about Riverine. Why? It was a derelict, it was run down, it wasn't used. And we knew it will cost us a fortune to rejuvenate it, to make it, worthwhile in sporting code. So what we decided, that we put out we put a motion that we decided that we will put out an EOI inviting local grass groups, locals for this LGA. Now it didn't matter which sporting code you belong to, whether it was cricket, rugby league, soccer, basketball, anything. We did. We went with the EOI and we had a good response. And I started to envisage the future in that area. Wow, a sporting precinct. It's going to have football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, which is the biggest growth of sporting code in Australia. And I'll get to that in a sec. Then we're going to have rugby league, St. George. Wow, I'm a supporter of the red and white and the Rabbitohs, by the way. They're my second choice. But we thought, wow, we've got soccer, and we are going to have in field 5 and 6 the New South Wales cricket. So I thought, wow, what a thing. For whatever reason, when the EOI came back, now that we know that rugby league has pulled out, New South Wales cricket may be financially in difficulty, we have a EOI, an expression of interest for a club to spend millions of dollars at no cost to this council. At no cost to this council. On top of that, the maintenance, it's going to cost council zero. So they are going to maintain sport on field 1 and 2. So it's crazy for us councillors to reject that. It is unthinkable if we are going to think about the future of our kids. Let's talk about soccer or football, what do you want to call it? When I migrated to this country, I was 8 years of age. Soccer wasn't played much. The Australian team only, I think, made it, once that I recall, in the 70s to the World Cup. Oh, we were so proud. We thought, oh my God, we made it. But we got knocked out straight away. But it's a good effort. Let me tell you, every World Cup for the last so many, not only Australia makes the qualifiers, but they are very competitive. and we nearly go to the semi-finals, which I think we probably did once, and hopefully in the near future, we will win the World Cup. Okay, the growth is unbelievable. Look at the local clubs, they all started with 1 or 2 or 3 teams, you know, and they were struggling to get people to play. Now, there's not enough teams, not enough fields to play. So you can't punish one single code of sport because of growth. And not only the male, look at the female. We're qualifying for the World Cup. Look at Sam Kerr. And I hope on a funny note it's not related to Mr. Kerr who used to work here. But look at her, she's an unbelievable talent. And there's many coming up in the, following her style, her games, and we are reaching the finals. And guess what? England signed her up, and I don't know the figures, but it must be good money for them to sign her up, Chelsea. So it's not only, it's good to see our females growing in the sport. Now we've got field 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, let's go back out. And I'll tell you what, it's a sporting zoning in that field. I'd love to see, maybe the AFL will come through. Maybe another rugby league will come through. But we want them grassroots. Maybe the cricket, maybe basketball, maybe netball, who knows? But I'll tell you what, we have no money to spend. When you get a club, and any other club that will go for 3, 4, 5, and 6, and come and say we're going to spend millions of dollars, okay, at no cost to the council, believe me, I will hug them and kiss them and say, please come forward. That is the best interest of our community. So I hope my fellow councillors will see the logic, and guess what? What Councillor Saranovsky said is right. This is all for our children. This is all for our youth. Whether you're on the east or this side, this is all our youth. We've got to support them. We've got to look after them. And that's, I hope we get the support on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Naji. We have a committee recommendation before us. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare it carried. Certainly. Can we have a division, please? Right, so this is for or against the committee recommendation. Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Mascot, Councillor Fidel, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji, Councillor Saranovsky, Councillor Werner, Councillor Wada, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah, Councillor Douglas,
Abstain.
Councillor Cedric, and I'm for, therefore I declare it carried. Thank you. All right, we'll invite Councillor McDougall back into the room, please. All right, this takes us to item 11.4010, which was the Wentworth Avenue Page Street intersection upgrade. So we have a recommendation from the committee. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Muscat. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare that carried. All right, this takes us now to minutes of the Traffic Committee, 11.5, number 43, the Hale Street and Botany Road, Botany. Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Jansen. Would you like to speak, Councillor Morrissey?
Yeah, I think governance should have the amendment. I just wanted to remove the recommendation number 3 about a left-hand turn into Underwood Street. So just for clarity, by adding that sign at that location, it will actually direct heavy vehicles towards Botany Public School, and we don't want cars there in the first place, so we don't want a sign directing trucks down that street. So if we can just remove number 3, and then the rest remain unchanged. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. Any speakers? All right. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. Just delete number 3. Thank you. All right, this takes us to 11.6 minutes of the Strategic Land and Property Working Group meeting. I think Councillor Saranowski stepped out. Is there any other? Councillor Cedric, Councillor Nargi. Does Councillor Nargi have to step out? Yes. All right, so this is noting those minutes. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded, who was there? Councillor Wada. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. And invite everyone back in, please. Actually, councillors, let's have a 5-minute recess, please. We can stop the recording. Okay, thank you, councillors. We are now on to number 12, which is the notices of motion. So we've got 12.1, notice of motion, Bayside Bushcare program, moved Councillor Jansen, seconded Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Jansen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, as we are aware, there are many in our local community who are very dedicated to preserving our biodiversity. So this notice of motion comes directly from feedback received from current Bushcare participants who feel that the current program could be improved to offer more than just a bit of a focus on weeding. So I believe Bushcare volunteers are undoubtedly an amazing community asset. Bit sort of excited about the 47.9% of unused space at Riverine Park now too, I must say. But they're an amazing community asset for all the reasons listed in the supporting info, and they're brilliant advocates for our own sustainability initiatives as we further and improve our outcomes for the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. All right, if we no further speakers, I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, declare that carried. That takes us to item 12.2, toy libraries in Bayside, moved. Councillor Werner, do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Fardell. Councillor Werner, yep.
Thank you. So this motion is about investigating the feasibility and cost implications and so on of a toy library. I also think it could be a really good test case, as there's been interest in the local area in having a tools library as well. And I think it would be really great for us to find out what the feasibility of this actually is. And then it would mean that in the future, if there's any grant funding, and I know that the council at the moment is under cost pressures, so financial pressures. So however, I do think it would be good to have a feasibility study just in case there is any grant money, and in case council feels that it would be a good idea, that we've got that option. A toy library could also become a community hub, and mixed in with other things like cafes and so on. A resident told me that there's a community hub in Sussex Inlet that is in a disused tennis court. It's got a permaculture plant section, a book library. There's a piano that someone's donated. People leave produce there, like lemons or chilies that from their own gardens. And there are elderly folk that have a kitchen there and have set up beehives. So yeah, I think the first step, however, would be having a feasibility study, and so that's what this motion is about, and I hope that it can be supported.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. Councillor Jansen.
Look, I hear what Councillor Werner is saying, and I'm a supporter of toy libraries, and I utilised one when my child was young, but I think we need to take it back a step even further. So I'd like to table a foreshadowed motion that Council investigates what libraries currently exist in Bayside or nearby and report this to committee prior to any feasibility study being undertaken. Because I know, for example, the SEC Community Library, it has 1,000 toys and is available to residents outside the southeast. So I just want to understand what there currently is and not compete with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor
Yeah, I'll
Nargi.
second that. I think it's a great idea. We should investigate and look. And I'll just give a prime example. And we don't get involved in the planning applications and things like that. But correct me if I'm wrong through you to Mr. Barber, that I believe that Artcliffe Library, for example, could be with that new development. I don't know what the agreements of what's going to happen in Eden Street. And if that's the case, at no cost to council, maybe we can implement and look at having that toy library, you know. I mean, yes, I'd like to see toy libraries around the LGA, but if it's feasible, relocating the council, plus we get a good area at no cost to the council, and we should look into it. So I think the notice of motion by Councillor Jansen is the way to go, and I will be supporting that.
Thank you. So we'll come back now to the original motion from Councillor Werner. Are there any speakers to the original motion? So there's no speakers. Would you like a right of reply?
Yes, so a resident actually made me aware of the toy library, the SEC one, which is on the other side of Bayside from here. So it's over on the eastern side of the airport. It would be really good to understand, and this could be part of any feasibility study, what the current use of that toy library is, how many people use it, and so on. And then we would be able to understand perhaps also the amount of use that a toy library on this side of the airport would potentially get based on demographic information. So I think it is wonderful that that there is a toy library on the eastern side, but we may also want one on the western side as well, so that the residents over here have a toy library in the vicinity as well.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. I think what Councillor Jansen's suggesting is that we do that investigation, because there's community libraries as well. So what exists currently, and go from there. So hang on, we've now had a right of reply to the first motion, so we have to deal with the first motion. So I put the first motion from Councillor Werner. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare that lost. I now put the foreshadowed motion. Are there any speakers that would like to speak to the foreshadowed motion? Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like something to be included in there in regards to the costs of hygiene. So once the toys have been used, how much then does it cost to clean them before they can go out to another, especially with COVID? There's that big factor as a parent. I'm all for toy libraries. I've had them. I've had my kids go to lots of toy play groups and things, but I think we need to be physically and mentally aware of whether there is any transmission of any viruses or whatever, and then can we afford to cover the costs of the routine cleaning and how often that happens.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. We can include that in the analysis.
Yeah. I think the analysis to me would be the community building that would house it all. It's not just a little. Well, that's, you know, you couldn't fit it in. A great idea. I mean, I've still got a lot of toys. I haven't got my dolls, but I've got Fisher Price toys that are they didn't exist till that. So, but I think that's got to be in the report, because I actually can't think of anywhere we could have something unless it's small stuff. So maybe you can, yeah. So anyway, that's all I'd say, is that there's more than just having the toys. It's where they're going to be, and as Councillor Muscat said, the cleaning. So there's a whole, you know, it is an avenue of things that have to be done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barlow. Any other speakers? Would you like a right of reply, Councillor Jansen? All right. Therefore, I have a foreshadowed motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare that carried. All right. Motion 12.3. This is reducing harmful effects of gas. Moved by Councillor Werner. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second the motion, or Heidi online.
Seconded, Councillor Douglas.
Thank you. So yeah, this motion is in two parts. One is that we acknowledge that though council at the moment is a small consumer of gas, simply when the current gas facilities need to be upgraded or substantially renovated, then at that time that those facilities would be upgraded to electricity. And the second part is seeking some advice from the Department of Planning about our ability to put a prohibition on gas installations in new buildings. In support of this, I'd like to say that gas is increasingly uneconomical. So the gas prices have roughly doubled in the last 12 months from December 2020, and solar and wind have actually become the cheapest form of energy in recent years. And advocates such as Sol Griffith say that each household can save $5,000 per year on energy bills by electrifying homes. Now, this is wonderful news, but if you've got an existing gas connection, it means that you would have to actually pay for that gas to be disconnected, and residents would face a disconnection charge. So I think it would be really good to look at our ability to, when the new buildings, new residential dwellings are built, that they have electricity instead of gas. Now, other councils have also refused gas connections. I believe Canterbury Bankstown, in their new developments that were in Campsie and Bankstown, I believe that they didn't have gas connections, and people were still allowed to have, gas canisters on their balconies and so on, if they wanted to have a barbecue there, but in their kitchens there weren't any gas connections. So this motion is simply to find out what we can actually do as a council to put prohibition in the LEP and so on. So I think this would save people a lot of money in the future. And as gas prices are going up, I think this is something that would be really beneficial for our residents. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. Are there any other speakers?
Look, I'll just make the comments that I felt it should just have a report, maybe come to a committee just for a quick report, but I'm a gas cooker, gas hot water, gas everything, did have electricity, moved into the house and had gas coming through the ceiling and it was leaking. But because it was in the roof, it didn't really matter. So they just disconnected it all and we had to put all new stuff in. And I found, personally, the electricity, it was a fan, we had a fan, four of us in the house then, but the electricity was expensive. So great idea maybe, but there's a lot of money that has to come out to everybody. It's not just, if you have the induction heating, you've got to have new saucepans. It makes I believe in gas, that's my problem. I've worked with it all within that house 40 odd years. So, so I'd say that possibly we need to, I just don't feel that, that's it. We're definitely a small user, maybe just a small report back to a committee, finding out exactly what we use and what. So
are you moving a
motion just
foreshadowed or?
Yeah, just,
okay.
Sorry, I think the GM manager wants to make a comment. I think she knows the answer.
Yeah.
Sorry, through the chair. I think the motion as it stands is only asking us to ask the Department of Planning whether or not, in a planning sense, it would be possible for council to prohibit gas installations in new buildings. We already know what our own consumption is, and we know that as we renovate, we're looking at what is the best source of energy for those new buildings.
All right, I will move that then because it's a simple, it's very simple, so I'm not having a foreshadowed motion, but I personally have a concern that it'll be interesting to see what comes back and what we're allowed to do, but it's the fact of the cost of trying to change something. I mean, I think, it's induction that you've got to have new saucepans, you've got to have this, you've got to have that. So it's all very well, but it's the council have their facilities and then all the gas barbecues go, and I've only just learned how to use them. It's to Joseph Banks Park, so I'm quite happy with that because it's simplified to what it was, so I'm happy to support it that way. Sorry, I didn't. That was at Joseph Banks Park.
Councillor Hannah?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, look, I think I don't have any great opposition to this, but it's quite evident to me that the market forces over time, if the trend continues the way it's continuing, will progressively push people out of the gas market. And I think we've also got to remember that, as far as I'm aware, we're still also generating electricity with gas-fired generation plants. So, I mean, with all these sorts of things, I think we've got to be realistic. So, I don't like to come across the top of people and say to people, look, if you build a new home, even though you've got a gas main in the street, we're not going to allow you to connect to gas, even though the gas might cost you 4 or 5 times much more than what the electricity will. I just don't think we should be pushing people to that point. I know this is a modified, watered down version, and this is only really seeking advice as to whether or not we could actually impose no new gas connections in new builds. But compressed gas in bottles on balconies of units is quite dangerous. And we've already had quite a number of explosions and fires in units from compressed gas. So I wouldn't want to see people move from natural gas that's connected via mains to bottled gas where the bottles aren't maintained, and the next thing you've got an explosion and a fire. So, you know, I think the market over time, what we are going to see is progressively we will move towards renewables, we'll move towards cleaner stuff, but I just have some great difficulty in starting to impose things on people. That's just my position on it. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Councillor McDougall.
Just a comment, Madam Mayor, just on point 2, which I think I fully support the goal of decarbonisation. You know, it's something that we, you know, is imperative for our society. But I think it's highly questionable whether localised approaches to this actually do anything in this space. Electricity is a system, and peaks matter. Where gas comes in is, and how gas plants operate, they're only economical to operate at peak demand. This is, you know, the coldest parts of winter and so on. And this is ultimately when people use gas in their homes. People aren't going to stop turning on their heaters because they've moved off gas to electricity. And that electricity will ultimately come from gas. So this is not necessarily actually going to reduce, you know, effectively decarbonise the network in any way when you do this in a piecemeal way, until you're actually pulling fossil fuels out of the firmed electricity network. It's, you know, it's pretty suspect whether this is going to have any impact at all positively, and it may well have a negative impact. You know, this is something that should really be approached, you know, approached either from a statewide level, or following the decarbonisation of the electricity network, essentially.
So you're seeking an amendment, Councillor McDougall? My only the next Planning and Environment Committee, there's a bit of research that probably needs to be done, and so that's just something to flag there. That's soon. Are you happy to extend that?
Yes, but
like
first
those
I think
papers would have to be written in the next week.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I would like to ask, through the chair, to the Director of City Futures if we have already asked the Department of Planning, or if it's a difficult and long process, or if we do need an extension for this.
Through you, Chair, no, it's not a question that we've asked, and I guess we'd be in their hands in terms of how long it takes them to come up with an answer and write back to us. So it's a bit difficult to predict. You could make it the next Planning Environment Committee meeting after we receive a response, but I can't say how long that will be.
Okay, well, let's do that. Let's make it the next planning committee after we receive the response.
So it would be good in the report to committee too, because at the moment it'd be good to know where council is currently using gas. So it's saying we'll transition out of gas in its own facilities, but it'd be good to understand. And my understanding is that we don't really. It's a very small amount, so it'd be good to understand that. All right, we have a motion. Any other speakers?
Could I just speak in support of the motion, please?
Sure.
Madam Mayor. I just want to say briefly that I think that this is a great motion because above electricity costs, which, gas is rising. We've seen that with the Ukrainian war, both gas and petrol prices rising. Electricity costs can come down through the use of renewable energy, which also is a national security issue for Australia, that we do make sure that we can power our networks locally through renewable energy. That renewable energy transition is happening at the federal and state level. And by future-proofing our local buildings here, by getting them off gas, we're actually saving them from future costs that they will need to transition out of gas, because we know that we have to get out of gas. We know we have to get out of coal. We've signed the Paris Agreement. That this is something the Australian federal government is committed to. So we know this is inevitable. By doing this work at our LGA level now, we are going to be saving our residents and businesses money in the future by future-proofing our buildings, by taking that gas connection out potentially. So I'm in fully support of this for economic reasons, for climate reasons, also because it's safer for our kids. Gas in homes is actually very bad for kids' health. It can lead to asthma, and most people don't know that because gas has been labelled natural gas and has been put under, it's basically propaganda that has been sold to us that most people have bought into. They don't realise how unsafe this is in their homes. We have transitioned out of gas in our home very simply by buying a cheap induction cooktop, by buying a air fryer. We didn't have to transition out of any of our pots and pans. It was very simple, and it actually saves us money. So personally, I support it for the health of our kids and for the finances of our community and for future climate-proof reasons as well. So I commend Councillor Werner for bringing this motion to Council.
Any other speakers? Right of reply.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that a lot of saucepans are already usable for induction cookers. So we transitioned away from gas as well, and we bought a cheap induction cooktop, just a small one, and we found that 80% of our pans actually were usable for that, because basically any pan that you buy from IKEA and so on is actually already usable for induction cooktops, and I think most people wouldn't even have to replace their pots and pans. The other thing is that I think people who want to use gas bottles on their balconies are already doing that. We're not pushing them to use gas bottles on their balconies. I agree it's dangerous and I wouldn't do it myself. It's just that I'm just saying that because Canterbury Bankstown, when they put electricity instead of gas in the new dwellings, they didn't prohibit the gas bottles, that's all. So just wanted to say we're not pushing people to use gas bottles on their balconies, but yeah, anyway, this is just to find out if it's possible. And so yeah, I hope this motion can be supported.
Thank you. We have a motion in front of us. All those in favour say aye. Against?
Aye.
I declare that carried. All right, takes us to item 13, questions with notice. It doesn't look like we have any questions with notice. All right, we've moved the confidential items by exception. So therefore, I conclude the meeting, councillors, at 9:11 p.m.